Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to the Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast, where we explore the extraordinary world of organ transplantation. Each week we share inspiring stories and introduce you to remarkable individuals sharing their own transplant stories. Be sure to support the podcast by leaving a 5-star review and subscribing on your preferred podcast platform. Have a transplant story yourself or comments about the podcast? Simply email us giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to connect with us on Facebook, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. This is BJ Odom. Yeah, the guy with more parts than a chicken nugget. My new book, packed with laughs, heart, and the unbelievable true story of survival you hear me talk about right here on the Gift of Life podcast. Get your copy today. More parts than a chicken nugget. Available now on Amazon. As we welcome you to episode 109. This week we share a story that will touch your heart in a powerful way. What began as a simple family ski trip turned into the unimaginable tragedy for Tara Storch and her family. But in the middle of their darkest moment, they made a decision that would bring life to others and purpose to their pain. Today, Tara shares the story of her daughter Taylor, a young life gone too soon, whose legacy continues to shine through the life she saved and the countless families now helped through Taylor's Gift Foundation. This is a story of loss, love, and the true meaning of the gift of life. We'll talk with Tara coming in next. Tara, we would like to welcome you to the Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. But before we get started with Taylor's story, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Tara Storch. I am a co-founder of Taylor's Gift Foundation, and I'm a donor mom. And my husband Todd and I have been married almost 32 years, and we have 3 beautiful children, Taylor, Ryan, and Peyton. And they are truly the joys of my life.
Well, awesome there. And as you said in the little introduction there, you are a donor mother. And of course, I always love these stories, and I'm just going to let you talk because I don't want to talk too much here. But I know sometimes these are very touching for me, and I know that sometimes the donor mothers love getting the stories out and kind of letting their children live on. So why don't you tell us a little bit before we even get started about your daughter, if you would?
Oh yeah, so Taylor is our oldest child, and she just had her birthday yesterday, which was April 19th, and she would have been 30. And gosh, just what a joy that child was. She was so, everybody thought that she was their best friend. That's how she made people feel. She made people feel seen and heard. And, at 13 years old, that was quite the gift she was given. And she had the most beautiful blue eyes that, people would stop us and talk about her eyes. And it would always make her blush a little bit because her eyes were just the most beautiful blue. And she just had these incredibly long black eyelashes. And so her eyes were just really just such a beautiful feature of that child. And, she just was able to shine a light really in every room she went in. She was that kid who really, really just had a servant's heart. She really did.
And of course, she became a donor, which was an amazing thing. But, I always wonder this as a recipient. Your hardest day is someone else's miracle and someone else's greatest day. And how did all that take, I don't need to get into all the details, but But what actually happened to your daughter?
Yeah, so we were on our spring break vacation in Beaver Creek, Colorado in March of 2010. And gosh, we were having such a great time. And it was our very first day on the slopes. And it was towards the end of the day that my husband, Todd, and my son, Ryan, and Taylor wanted to have one last run before the slopes closed. And, my Peyton, who the little one, was 9 at the time. Ryan was 11 and Taylor was 13. And Peyton was tired and wanted some hot chocolate. So I took her to the bottom of the mountain and, we just waited and waited for them to come back to us. And finally, here comes my husband and my son running towards us. And my husband said there's been an accident and they're going to care flight her. And what had happened is that they were on their last run of the day, and Taylor lost her footing and went into the trees, and she hit a tree. And doing everything right, she was wearing a helmet. She was a very good athlete, and it was just truly how she hit, and it was an accident. She was care flighted to Grand Junction, Colorado, where we soon met with a huge group of doctors who were telling us the seriousness of her injuries. And, my husband and I really just your world just stops, right? I mean, I remember talking to the doctor and asking, okay, so I know she's hurt, but when can she, she's going to be so disappointed because volleyball tryouts are coming up. When do you think she'll be okay for those things? She was so excited to try out for volleyball in high school. And I remember them saying, that's really the least of your worries right now. And I remember we were in the hospital. Oh my gosh, they did everything they could to save that child's life in so many ways. And, when we got to the point of really knowing that we weren't going to bring our child home, we'd be planning a funeral for our child. We were standing by her bed and, really in a very sad space. And a woman approached us. I guess she was a nurse. And she said, your daughter has the opportunity to save lives through donation. Would you consider it? And I have to say, we had never talked about donation in our family, not even once. I mean, I think my husband and I had checked it off on our license, but it was not a conversation in our home at all. But out of the hardest decisions we were making, that was the easiest thing to say yes to because of who Taylor was. And we know in our heart of hearts that if we would have asked Taylor in those moments, honey, do you want to save others? She would have said, absolutely, Mom. And Taylor went on to save and improve the lives of 5 people with a gift of her heart, both kidneys, her liver, pancreas, and she gave sight with her cornea. And, it's been a gift. And she just had such this beautiful ripple effect of good. So, when we came back from Colorado and really started our life over, we had a choice. We were either going to cave up in the grief or find the good. And the good was that she saved lives. And I remember my husband and I talking one afternoon and, grief was just so heavy. And my husband said, I remember my grandfather telling me something when I was a kid and it meant nothing to me then, but it means everything now. And he used to say, Todd, it's not what happens to you that matters. It's how you react to it that does. I mean, so don't get me wrong. I mean, of course it mattered that we lost our child. It ruined and collapsed dreams and plans and changed our family in so many ways. But we knew our reaction was going to be very important. I mean, not only, most importantly to our children, our other 2 children. And so we chose to find the good. And not too long after, we started Taylor's Gift Foundation, really with the initial purpose to share the importance of organ donation, organ and tissue donation, and quickly learned that, as you know, it's not an easy topic, right? I mean, people don't sit around and talk about, hey, do you want to be an organ donor someday? And, it's just not one of those easy conversations. So we wanted to help change that conversation. So we coined the phrase, outlive yourself. How do you want to outlive yourself and leave a lasting difference in the lives of others? And that message really took off. And we were able to get some incredible partners join us for that. Nike partnered with us and created Outlive Yourself socks. And, it was pretty amazing, the ripple effect that was happening. And, we were able to share our story on national media, and you can see that on our website. And along the way, as Taylor's Gift was growing and sharing the importance of donation, we really saw and felt the lack of grief support, specifically for the donor side of donation. And that really was the spark for us to start our Taylor's Gift grief support program. And, and this really came out of experience, because when everything happened to us, we were looking for organizations or others who understood what the grief of a donor family is like, because it's layered. You've got this grief from a sudden loss combined with this silver lining of gratitude that your loved ones saved somebody, saved others. And so it's where kind of grief and gratefulness kind of share that same space. And, we were looking for others who understood that and couldn't find it. So we started Taylor's Gift Grief Support Program, which has now helped donor families in 47 states and DC, and continuing to grow.
So if someone would be interested in this or to get more information, where would they need to go?
Yeah, so if you go to taylorsgift.org, you can get grief support right there if you're a donor family. It doesn't matter if you are new to your grief or years past your grief. Our grief support services are completely free to donor families. And the way our program works is that when you submit your information on our form, we have an intake specialist that will call and learn about your story and connect you with our program. And our program offers individual support with caring guides, is what we call them. They're professional peer supporters who have walked a grief journey similar to your own. And we also have group support that is loss specific. So if you've lost a child, we have a child loss group. You've lost a spouse, we have men's groups. We have all these specific groups to line up with your journey. Because I think we all know how it feels to be with somebody that understands, that truly gets what you're going through. It is just it helps you just with that step of moving forward some. And, that's what we've been able to offer, is that understanding and meeting the donor families exactly where they are in their grief. And it's 100% free to donor families.
And that address again on the web is what now?
It's taylorsgift.org, TAYLORSGIFT, like a gift, like a present, taylorsgift.org. If you go to our website, you can learn all about us and about our grief support program we offer for donor families.
Now, one thing I get here a lot on the Gift of Life, the Organ Donation Podcast, is people that actually have received the gift of life and, had the donation, but they have a hard time with that because they know someone had to, lose their life in order for them to live. What would you tell someone that is struggling right now that has an organ but going, because there are some people, on this side of the table that have some really hard times with that.
Of course. And it completely makes sense. And that's completely normal. And just know that your donor family said yes to help you live, and not just to help you honor that gift of life. And the biggest gift really that you can ever give a donor family is to live the life you've been given to the fullest, and to not wear the guilt. Taylor did not pass away so those 5 people could live. That was not the reason she passed away. She passed away because of a skiing accident. And our yes was the ripple effect to create that gift of life so others could live. And to live that life to the fullest is really the greatest gift you can give a donor family. And please don't feel that there's guilt involved on your side for that. We said yes for a reason. And the recipients are the reason that we said yes. We want our loved one to be able to live on in a great way. And you taking that gift and living it and honoring it and living your life to the fullest is truly the greatest gift you could ever give to that yes that we were given.
Now, have you met any of the organs that Taylor donated? Have you met them personally?
Yes, we've met 4 out of the 5 recipients, which is pretty amazing. And it's just been truly a gift. We understand that is many times not the case where donor and recipients meet. And, we're grateful that they opened the door to their lives to us, that we could be there and be connected. And it's really just meant a lot. And it's meant a lot to them too. Letting us in their life and being able to connect with us has also helped, I think, with them feeling the way that you mentioned, right? I mean, knowing that we so appreciate and honor the life that our daughter gave them, it makes them feel, that not that the guilt that a recipient feels ever goes away, but it's just kind of softens that and makes it realize that, we said yes for a recipient to live. And you were the gift that received that gift. And, I just feel like it was such a beautiful opportunity for us to connect with, her recipients. And we're so grateful for it.
Now, have you ever, because this is the story that always gets me being a heart recipient, have you met the heart receiver, and have you been one of those families that has heard the heartbeat?
Yes, we have. It was really just a few months after we lost Taylor, we were able to connect with her heart recipient. And actually that story, our story was followed and filmed, and it was on Good Morning America. And if you go to our website, taylorsgift.org, and you click on the press, if you go to the Good Morning America story, you'll be able to see that and watch that. And, I don't think there's, people have asked us, what that was like, or what is it like meeting her heart recipient. And, I don't think there's a word in the English language to describe what that moment is like, because it is full of every emotion you could imagine. It is sorrow, it is joy, it is anger, it is happiness, it is, sadness, it is elation, it's beauty, it's beauty from ashes. I mean, it's just everything. And I just don't know if there's a word for it to describe it, but gratefulness on both sides, I think, describes that moment. I think it's hard, it's beautiful, and both my husband and I and Patricia, her recipient family, just so grateful on both of us, grateful to us to get that opportunity, and grateful for her to just meet us and be able to give us a hug for the life that she has.
Now, besides all those feelings, then how was it to actually, when you did hear it? I mean, like I said, there's probably words, there's not words there that you can even say. Yeah,
there's not. I mean, I have tried to figure that word out for a long time of what that is. It's just so overwhelming and beautiful at the same time. And I don't know what that word would be. And I'm just so grateful, for our faith, to be able to help us walk through this journey too.
Now, I've heard from a lot of donor families the word legacy. Does that pop up into the way you feel about Taylor, and she still continues her legacy through others?
I do. I mean, I do feel like legacy is a beautiful word. The way we describe it is that we feel like Taylor's outliving herself, right? She is truly still making a difference in the lives of others. And that's what I think we all want, right? And whatever legacy means to people, I think legacy comes down to you making a difference in the lives of others. Legacy is not a selfish word. Legacy is a other-centered word. It is about the impact and the ripple effect you had in the lives of others, because that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah, what'd you say? 5 different lives were saved because of Taylor?
Uh-huh. That's right.
Truly
That's
amazing.
right.
So one little girl and 5 people are living, through her. So that's just truly, truly amazing. Anything else that you would like? Anything maybe you want to touch on that, I haven't asked, or something that is important to you and your family besides going out and advocating for organ donation?
Yeah, I mean, I think, learn about what Taylor's Gift does and the support we give to donor families. And if you know of a donor family who needs grief support, we are here for them. That's what we do. That's why we are here, is to support donor families during their grief. And like I said, it doesn't have to be early grief, like right when it happens. It could be that grief is still part of your world and weighing you down in a very rough way 10 years past the loss, and we're here for you. And so you can just go to our website and learn more and reach out to us and support what we do.
Now, I ask you, how you could talk to recipients that, have, feeling so guilty and things like that. What do you say to other donor mothers as, you help them through their grief?
I think the biggest, that's interesting. I mean, I think I just want to tell them I understand, because everybody's grief is so different, right? There's nothing really that I can say to make things, quote, better, right? Because you will always have that loss. I think, and I don't feel like time heals all wounds. Like, I don't think that time makes things where you're healed. I think the sting of grief lessens over time. And that is a gift we've been given. And, knowing there's going to be some triggers every now and then will still bubble up, which is completely normal. And I think the gift of just talking to other donor moms is just that, I understand. We understand. We've walked in those shoes. And I think the decision you made for donation was a beautiful one. Absolutely beautiful one.
I had a donor mother tell me one time that they went to hear the son's heartbeat, and she took her older daughter, which, was out of school, and an adult daughter, and they heard the man's heartbeat, and, the legacy, they said, lived on. But the strangest thing was that when they were leaving, the recipient picked up some leaves off the ground and threw them at the daughter, and the daughter immediately started crying. And, the gentleman, of course, obviously said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't even know why I did that." And then to find out later, they had to tell him that the daughter, that they had to tell him that her brother used to do that to her all the time. Anything ever like that occurred with you or your family in meeting any of your donors?
Yeah, so we had a couple of that where, when Jeff, who had received her kidney and pancreas, I remember when his family reached out to us, because when he woke up from surgery, and this was, obviously when we met him for the first time, they're sharing this story, but when he woke up from surgery, he was craving a slice of cheesecake. And he had never asked for cheesecake in his entire life or even talked about that dessert. And it was one of Taylor's very favorites. And so that was pretty amazing. But, I think probably one of the most beautiful stories, from this is that Taylor's heart recipient, Patricia, was a labor and delivery nurse. And our youngest daughter, Peyton, went to nursing school. And for all of her life, since she was little bitty, had wanted to be a labor and delivery nurse. And so she was going into that specialty. And when she was graduating from nursing school, Patricia's husband, Joe, sent our daughter, Peyton, Patricia's stethoscope. And it was the stethoscope that, she listened to her sister's heartbeat. And it was such a beautiful, thoughtful gift for him to give our daughter his wife's stethoscope that she used on a daily basis as a labor and delivery nurse. And so that is absolutely was so touching and thoughtful and beautiful. And Peyton has it displayed so proudly in her apartment. And with a picture of her listening to Taylor's heartbeat in Patricia. And I just can't imagine something more special than that.
Thank you so much, Tara, for sharing this amazing story about your loving daughter, Taylor. And be sure to join us each week for a new heartfelt episode. And if you have a transplant story, email us, giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, and also don't forget to like and share this episode with family and friends. And we'd appreciate that 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Reminder, my memoir, More Parts Than a Chicken Nugget, isn't just a medical story. It's a survival story filled with humor, hope, and heart. It'll make you laugh, maybe even cry. And definitely believe in second chances. Get it now, available on Amazon. More Parts Than a Chicken Nugget. Another podcast you might enjoy is myself and former radio partner Bill Stevens. BJ and Bill, the podcast, all on the Podcast Playground Network. And we want to thank them for making this podcast possible. Until next time, I'm BJ Odom. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey and reminding us all to appreciate each and every day and to treasure the extraordinary gift of life.